Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is considering the NHS helped cover up the rape gangs. Now the question occurred to me when I came across an ex page called Humphrey Dinsmore. Now Humphrey Dinsmore is not the person's real name. I don't even know if Humphrey is a male or a female. And he went on to explain in a later tweet why they have to remain anonymous. You probably understand when I read out the tweet that caught my attention. So just read it out and then we'll consider what Humphrey is actually saying here. He says, I am a qualified clinician working in the NHS in one of the infamous northern rape gang towns. Being a psychological service, we come into contact with victims of these gangs extremely frequently and have done for decades. Their stories are truly horrifying. Like most NHS services, the one I work for has a particular talent for running awareness initiatives. Posters are put up, whole service emails are sent, presentations are given, meetings are had. LGBTQ plus awareness, Black History Month, International Women's Day, Refugee Week, Race Equality Week, Ramadan, used as a springboard for Islam awareness. We have all of those and more every single year. We also have one-off initiatives that respond to current events, for example, in response to the death of George Floyd. We even had emails sent round and group meetings held in response to the recent Southport murders. Although these were exclusively about the fear members of the BAME community must be feeling. Given the fact that we work in an area swamped in the organised mass rape of the young, vulnerable British girls, and that we routinely work with these girls, you'd expect an initiative to be created in response to this issue. But nothing, absolutely nothing. Not even a single email. It is never spoken about. It is never addressed. And if someone does mention it in passing, you're looked at as if you are speaking Latin. If nothing else, you'd expect there'd be a clinical need for conversations to be taking place. You know, considering we provide care to many of the victims, but no, apparently not. We are woefully unprepared to work with these girls because no one's willing to address the problem head on. Maybe I'm stupid or have lost my mind. God knows it's starting to feel like I have. I'm utterly appalled at the lack of willingness on the part of professionals to pull their bloody heads out the sand and face up to what's laid before us. Decades on and still can't seem to do it. Yet they wonder why faith in them and a good majority of other public services is collapsing. Repulsive, willful blindness. If you read this, please retweet it. People like myself have no other way to publish such disgraces due to the institutional gagging of anyone and everyone who dares to challenge our respective establishments. Now that caught me. That really did. And it reminds me not just of this instance, but even probably wider because it reaches more areas than even these horrible grooming gangs, and that is the woo-woo nonsense that the NHS are headstrong in trying to blind us by. And I have spoken to several high-ranking NHS officers who feel the exact same way about gender questions and things they are expected to toe the party line with. The NHS and our other services should not be political. I don't even agree with nurses and doctors wearing lanyards to support any type of political stance. I find it most sickening that you can't go for a checkup without somebody somewhere having to give you a visible reminder of their feelings on any particular political aspect. And doesn't need to be so. They're there to work and serve, and they do so well in the majority of cases. However, they're not there to educate me in your politics. It's not what it's about. And when you see a Black Lives Matter or a rainbow lanyard or whatever, there is no need for it, because you're there visiting your health service because you have an illness or ailment or injury that you need attended to. You're not there for political debate or lessons. But it worries me, because if this person, who's evidently quite a decent role in the NHS, is feeling like that, they won't be alone. And that reminds me very much of how our police forces are dealt with now, where we put stupid things onto them, like in Scotland we have the hate crime. And you feel when you're speaking to some of these police officers that they don't want to be dealing with it, but they're forced to. And they're forced to be woke. And it has to end. I was talking on a podcast that gets put out on Friday, an audio podcast about politics in Scotland, and I was talking about the referendum. And it was the first time I noticed in my adult life that you were forced to, well, you weren't forced to because you could have the option of not getting involved in the nonsense, but it was the first I had noticed that everybody was expected to put their politics in their sleeve. And people demanded to know, how are you voting in the referendum? And up to that point, any relationship I had with a ballot paper was a personal and private relationship that I may or may not share with my closest to me. But now, we're almost forced to support visually our politics in public. And I dare say a lot of people that put on the BLM stuff or the rainbow stuff, that might not even be their politics. But they're doing it because they're in places like the NHS, where it's almost more difficult for you if you don't buy into the narrative. And that's wrong. It's wrong for so many reasons. But there's hope. Because day by day, little by little, inch by inch, I see the big tanker of wokeness in public opinion turning. Slowly, but turning. And I do see the world changing slightly each day for the better, away from this woke ideology and the ridiculousness that every single aspect of politics must be printed in a t-shirt and worn every day. And it's all nonsense. And I look forward to the end of it. But it does leave me with the question of our NHS turned a blind eye to a massive issue of grooming gangs throughout the United Kingdom. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Let me know your comments below, please. They're always well received. But the most important of all, as I always say, as long as you're not someone who, by ignoring what's going on in society, is actually helping it, all these horrific things, not just uniquely to the raping gangs. But if you turn a blind eye, or indeed help hide and cover up these things, not you, definitely not you. But
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.